Oh, damn, I threw a bad ball. We scored. I'm tripping. You know I'm a perfectionist, bro.
Got it.
Let's go. Let's keep going.
What would you think of if I told you this NFL quarterback had these accomplishments? Offensive Rookie of the Year, back-to-back AFC South Division titles, and also a playoff victory in each of his first 2 seasons. If you asked me what I thought about that quarterback, I would tell you this is a young guy with some promise to eventually be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But unfortunately, that's not the reality for CJ Stroud. After his historic rookie season, the expectation was now set high, and people thought he was going to take over the league in his sophomore year. As quick as people love to support you, they turn on you even quicker. As for CJ Stroud, a lot of fans that he gained in year 1 turned on him in year 2 and said that he had a sophomore slump. And I'm here today to set the record straight, because I'm sick and tired of the CJ Stroud disrespect. Now that you got the play call, it's time to execute, because it's 4th and 1 and we're always going forward. Before Jaden Daniels came and had the greatest rookie season of all time, it was CJ Stroud. CJ came in and did something that we have not seen in a very long time from a rookie quarterback. That's coming into the league and taking it by storm. You're a rookie quarterback, but you're playing like a 5-6 year vet. CJ came in and restored hope for the Houston Texans, who hasn't made it postseason prior to his arrival since 2019. And the reason why people were so surprised was because a lot of people didn't expect this out of CJ Stroud in year 1. Coming out of college, a lot of people questioned if he should have been the number 2 overall pick, because in a lot of people's eyes, he wasn't that polished on the NFL level quite yet. Not to mention, he wasn't the fastest, and we know in this generation, mobile quarterbacks and having the ability to use your legs and extend plays was key. And CJ Stroud was looked at as an old school quarterback coming out of the draft, because he was primarily a pocket passer. And Bryce Young being the number 1 overall pick, getting all the attention and having all the expectation to come in and immediately turn around the Carolina Panthers team, CJ Stroud was actually the one to do so for his squad. Maybe teams should start tanking for the 2nd overall pick instead of the 1st, because CJ Stroud did his thing in 24 and then Jaden Daniels did the following year after. CJ Stroud was so dominant in his first season that some people even had him potentially winning the MVP. And after starting the season with some ups and downs and typical rookie woes, CJ had his team at 3-4. But around the midway point of the season, something clicked for CJ and the Houston Texans, and they ended up going on a 3-game winning streak, and next thing you know, they were leading the AFC South at 7-5. CJ and the Houston Texans were just going to lose 2 more games during that regular season, which was good enough for a 10-7 record and the AFC South title, the first division crown for the Houston Texans since 2019. CJ would throw for 4,108 yards, 23 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions with a 100.8 QB rating. Those are historic numbers, especially for a rookie that had a lot of concern coming out of Ohio State. And the concern was never the talent of CJ Stroud, it was just more so would his game at the college level translate well to the NFL level, considering the fact that he doesn't necessarily fit the prototypical style of quarterback play in today's game. But CJ Stroud shows something that many quarterbacks don't, especially rookies, and that's grit, toughness, and the ability to lead a team. Actually think about it. To be a 22 and 23-year-old rookie quarterback to come into the league of grown men and get them to follow you and you lead them to victory, that takes a special kind of human to do that. And truth be told, that's a reason why I'm such a big CJ Stroud fan. Everyone falls in love with his play on the field, but it's how he carries himself that sets him apart from everyone else. If you listen to CJ Stroud, it doesn't take you long to hear that he's such a believer in Christ and always gives the praises to the man upstairs. And CJ is so selfless. He's such a great teammate. He plays quarterback in the National Football League and they get all the attention, and he could easily soak that up. But listening to CJ, he'll be the first one to give his teammates credit for the success on field. And we won't get into CJ Stroud's personal life too much, but we know his family story. Every single Sunday, he's playing with the heavy heart, but that doesn't stop him from going out there and being successful. The Houston Texans offensive roster was solid at the time. They had a really good offensive line line led by Laramie Tunsil. They had a budding rookie star in Tank Dell, also Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, and a slew of other guys. But their roster was far from perfect, as it showed its true colors at the divisional round of the playoffs. After a shellacking that the Houston Texans put onto the Cleveland Browns in the wild card weekend, they ran into the Baltimore Ravens, and unfortunately their season came to an end. But all in all, it was a hell of a rookie season for CJ Stroud, a historic one at that, something that we haven't seen in a very long time. He was able to cap off that rookie campaign with the Offensive Rookie of the Year award at the NFL Honors later that year. Now headed into his sophomore season, the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud, expectations have changed. The Texans have entered themselves into the Super Bowl conversation, and CJ Stroud has entered his name into the MVP race. After CJ Stroud showed the Houston Texans that their Super Bowl window now is officially open, the Houston Texans decided to match that energy by making some big splashes in that offseason. They traded for wide receiver Stephon Diggs and also Joe Mixon, and that had everyone saying wow, because it looked like that Houston Texans offense was going to be one of the best in the league. Surrounding CJ with that much talent, it had everyone ready to say Houston was one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl that year. Having two budding stars at the wide receiver position in Nico Collins and Tank Dell, adding a former All-Pro wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, made that room look very scary and probably the best trio in the NFL at the time. And they also went out and addressed one of their biggest weaknesses, which was the running game. They got Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals, which gave CJ Stroud some balance, and he didn't have to do it all by himself. Not to mention, they regained Bobby Slowick, who was looked at to be one of the offensive geniuses at the time and a potential head coaching candidate. Not to mention, they made a slew of defensive moves to bolster that unit that was already really good. Getting a guy like Kamari Lassiter in the draft to pair with Derek Stingley was outstanding. So looking at it on paper, the Houston Texans was ready to rock and roll in CJ Stroud's sophomore season. But unfortunately for the Houston Texans, their second year under CJ Stroud was filled with a lot of ups and downs, injuries, and questionable play calling, which led to the low-hanging fruit that everyone typically grabs. It's the quarterback's fault. It's funny how when you're losing and you're not playing well, it's all on the quarterback. But I guess that's what comes with playing the position, because 9 times out of 10, when you're successful, the quarterback is the one that get all the praise. But truth be told, it was a lot that went wrong for the Houston Texans in 2024. First thing first that was huge for the Houston Texans was the injuries. Their key acquisition in Stephon Diggs that they went out to get, that they thought was going to come in and bolster this wide receiver room to the top, ended up tearing his ACL early on in the season. As if that wasn't bad enough, Nico Collins, one of their budding stars, was in and out of the lineup for majority of the year. And if that wasn't bad enough, later in that season, the Houston Texans would lose yet another wide receiver, and that is Tank Dell. For the second straight year, Tank Dell unfortunately had a season-ending injury. You go out and you invest a lot into one position group in hopes that it was there to help support your quarterback, but for the most part, they were never on the field at all the same time. Like, I know this isn't necessarily pinpoint accurate, but outside of week 1, where it was Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and Nico Collins, I can't really remember another time where all 3 of those guys were on the field at the same time and they all were healthy and playing at 100%. And although DeMeco Ryans was really good in year 1, he had some decisions that he made that was a little questionable that cost the Texans a few games. Also, it doesn't help when you have an offensive line unit that you invest so much in, but they let you down, especially when your superstar left tackle like Laramie Tunsil is one of the guys that are holding and being penalized the most. And of course, you got to give CJ Stroud some of the blame pie as well, because he did not look as fluid as he did in his rookie campaign in 2024. And Texans fans, feel free to help me out in the comments section if you see it a different way. But I feel like one of the biggest reasons why CJ wasn't as successful, or it didn't look as pleasant on the eyes, is because he didn't really move around the pocket or utilize and extend plays how he did in year 1. And although CJ isn't known to be a mobile quarterback or to have wheels, he's at his best when he's extending plays. It puts pressure on a defense where he's able to extend and roll out and keep his eyes down the field and make a really good throw of a football while on the run. It also seemed like to me CJ Stroud's clock was sped up, and that's something that we really didn't see in year 1. And that's where I say it's out of the hands of the quarterback at the time, because when you're giving a quarterback real time in the pocket, you see a different version. But when they feel sped up and feel like they have to make a play or they're going to get sacked, that's when you see tendencies that you didn't see when they're comfortable. When quarterbacks are uncomfortable, comfortable, it often leads to them pressing, which means they'll end up turning the ball over or making a very poor throw. So the situation that CJ Stroud ended up being in last year is a big reason why I feel like it wasn't that pleasant of a watch. And notice I said it wasn't that pleasant of a watch instead of it being a failed season, because truth be told, although it wasn't that fluid as his rookie campaign, CJ Stroud still led the Houston Texans to yet another AFC South title for the second straight year. And although we did see a spike in CJ Stroud's INTs, for the most part his numbers were very identical to his rookie campaign, as he threw for 3,700 yards and 20 touchdowns. And I really don't want to hear anything about how poor the AFC South really is. That narrative may be true, and we've been saying that for years now, but that doesn't stop the fact that you still got to go out and win the game and win a division, which the Texans did back-to-back years. Not only did they win a division, they also won a wild card game for the second straight year. And guess who was the quarterback for those games? CJ Stroud. And of course, it's easy to always say he took a step back when the INTs are up and when you have standards set so high for him and he doesn't quite meet them. So when you mention that he took a step back, make sure you mention every situation around him. Although he did have some major help from Joe Mixon in the run game last year, they really did not have nothing else to go to on that offensive side of the ball. So if you're not a big believer in CJ Stroud, I will honestly say hold off judgment until after year 3. See what he does with a new play caller and Nick Caley, adding Nick Chubb to that running back room with Joe Mixon, getting a healthy Nico Collins back, and also going into a different direction on the offensive line. Heard that they got younger, so let's see if that's better. But in the time being, instead of referring to CJ Stroud as a guy that had a sophomore slump, make sure you mention that he's a quarterback that led his team to back-to-back AFC South titles and back-to-back playoff berths. I must say, he did a dang good job executing that play, but line it back up, because over here, it's always 4th and 1, and you know we going for it.